Oh, Rue, you're back.
Oh, yes, sorry, I went to check out this new restaurant called U-Hop.
U-Hop?
Yes, I'm not sure why they called it that. It serves very good lunch foods, but it's only open for a short time. I heard that in another realm they have a competitor that's open very long time and specializes in breakfasts.
Waffle House?
I think that might be the one.
Waffles?
Oh no, I forgot about that obsession of his. Quick, change the subject. Did they have milkshakes?
No, unfortunately not. But, did we have anyone planned to bring in today, or do you think we should just do a random pool today?
I don't believe we had anyone planned.
Well, Martin, that was actually... Martin? Oh, my goodness. Hello.
Hello.
Well, hello. At this point, I'm just going to assume teleportation, or portal.
Yes, well, you see, it was a bit of a arcanum thing. I was making a teleportation signal while getting energy from another source, and I was trying to go to a place that you can't go to unless you don't know where you're going, but you can't go there if you don't know where you're going, so it kind of created a bit of a paradox. And who are you?
Sorry, I am Ryu, part of the Delegation of Dreamers. You are currently in the realm of dreams and forgotten memories.
I'm Ephraim.
And I'm Ashura. And I swear either there's just very good timing in this realm, or we are being recorded for something, because this seems to happen every time we're asking about bringing someone in.
Indeed.
The realm you were trying to go to, was it called Narnia?
No, it was the Island of Lost Things. You see, my party got split away from me for a bit. They kind of do it a lot. Like, a lot. And me and an associate were trying to get them back.
Ah,
In all honesty, you're probably pretty close. This is a realm similar to that, at least.
it's probably what happened. Most people don't really know where they're going when they end up here, so that probably didn't help your situation.
Yes.
Would you like any refreshments while you're here? Can help you get possibly help you get the right location for where you're trying to go.
Well, it's not nearly as dire as last time. It's mostly just a vacation for all of them. I was a little bit late to arrive, and, well, I suppose I can sit and chat for a bit, wait for my energies to realign. I'm a bit more of a wine man, per se.
Excellent, we have some great wine, and most of it's forgotten. I may have pilfered some from a few realms as well, with valid purchases.
And also from my stash.
I haven't touched your stash recently.
Recently.
Not saying I didn't take any, but...
Well, my, aren't you a naughty whatever it is you are?
Oh, I'm a Cephalotus Fey. Not common in most of the realms. Jeremy, be a dear and get some of the good wine, and also some of the pastries that you recently made. We just had some berries that we discovered. Some realm must have forgotten them. That or everything went extinct there. Hard to tell. But yes, he'll be back any second. Let's see. I'm assuming you have a connection to some otherworldly creatures, but I'll get on that later. Are you by chance a bard?
Well, I don't like to brag more than 3 times a day, but yes. Oh, how rude of me. My name is Vermillion Sonata.
Quite a nice name. Has a nice ring to it. I also, I've somewhat retired, but I too am a bard. I noticed your magical violin. Wanted to get a little bit more information on it, such as who made it and some of the intricacies of it.
Oh, well, you have an eye for craft. This particular violin here was basically made within the Forge of Cord, the god of creation.
That is quite a unique item, then.
Yes, well, I took it upon myself to create it. You see, Cord basically creates every single person's body, from every single minute detail, personality quirks, and everything like that, whereas Avandra gives the nouns to your spirit. And, well, Sky Daddy made me a bit of a precocious little scamp, so whenever I, a person that has creation acumen, had a chance to fiddle around with everything, I couldn't pass up the chance.
Definitely cannot blame you. I would have done so too, though my specialty is not necessarily creation of things. I can enchant things much easier, but... Oh, here's some wine. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, here, have the diamond. And Jeremy is going to go and purchase some of those delicacies that we all wanted to try. And he'll be back in a little while.
Oh, fantastic. I am quite peckish.
Yes. Ephraim, what was that you called it? It was some kind of pastry that you had heard of.
Clerics.
Not sure if that's the one you mentioned.
Frosted clerics.
I don't think that's the...
That's the wrong kind of treat, Ephraim. That's a dragon treat.
Oh, and Jeremy's also going to get you an extra supply of food ordered. Ephraim, I know your larders are running a little low.
Always keep a dragon well fed.
Especially that one. I don't want to have to freeze him again.
Good advice.
But, I cannot remember the second question I was going to ask.
Oh, then I can ask one. What realm are you from?
Yes, well, I hail from the realm of Gaiafel, specifically Rochalia. I'm a bit of a hero there.
I sort of remember that name, Rochalia.
Didn't we have two, I believe, goblins from there?
Oh yeah, Jitters and Rose.
Ah, yes, that's it.
Were they both goblins?
Jitters. Tweaky little nervous sort and a bigger sort. Very simple, usually speaks in the third person.
Oh yeah.
As the name implies, yes.
Hold on, wait. No, they were from Rabarbia.
Oh,
Rochalia.
No, I specifically wrote down Rabarbia.
Well, Ephraim, you happen to have a bad time with writing sometimes because you don't always pay close attention. Like, for example, the first few times we talked, you kept writing me down as a rye.
he still calls you a tentacle fairy thing, so...
Well, yes, but that's also because you all refuse to call me by my species name if you're trying to describe me.
Yes, it's a lot more fun.
Well, I'll give you that.
But how do you know Jitters?
Well,
Did you know Rose as well?
I suppose know of. You see, I've had a bit of a front row seat from the nosebleeds as it speaks. I wasn't necessarily living at the time, but I kept a close eye on my associates, and they encountered the two at the time.
You've had a run-in with death, and you've come back.
Well, I do always depend on the kindness of strangers, in this case my friends, but yes, a little opportunistic sort of person by the name of Dawn got one cheap sneak attack off me, caught me unawares. Would have never happened if I was prepared, but fortune favors the bold, I suppose.
That it does. Suppose being dead probably wasn't terribly fun, but, did you at least get to see the sights, so to speak?
Well, I had a chance to see my associates in battle without me, completely lost, by the way. And I was able to reunite with my long-lost love, who I'd not seen for quite a few decades. So the afterlife wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be for someone of my ilk. I dare say it was quite pleasant.
Very nice. So you said your long-lost love, was it a wife or a husband, or was it someone you were just dating at the time that they passed?
Oh, well, it's all right. No, it was my wife, Marigold.
Quite a lovely name. Do you mind telling us a bit about her?
I suppose I could. You see, Marigold was the first person that saw me. Really me. I had a penchant of my youth of dealing and trading in the sense of secrets. I would masquerade as someone else close to my target, gain information and secrets that would essentially bring them up to bear, and expose them for the populace to tear down the corrupt sorts. Marigold I met when I was masquerading as a musician, because no one ever suspects the bard of being anything more so than what it is. I met her, and she discovered me quite quickly. She had quite a talent for parsing the truth from my lies, and despite knowing all of me, she stayed. And then I became obsessed with her. Nearly she became obsessed with finding out more about me.
Oh my.
But you were invisible up until then.
I'd say invisible in plain sight. I was masquerading as just a musician, a vagrant, a vagabond of sorts, but she saw belied the kindness and intelligence and truly the heart of who I was.
It is rare to find someone who can see through a guise and then not necessarily be mistrusting.
You said you lost her, as in couldn't be found, or another way?
Yes, well, that was a bit of a sorrowful point in my tale. You see, there was a particular burgomaster in our village where we were growing up. At this time, we had been married for about 10 years, and he also was particularly taken with my marigold and was shot down several times, harshly, quite hilariously so. But jilted lovers become scorned and angry of sorts, and I suppose there came a day when he would not take no for an answer. My marigold went down fighting, and unfortunately, as I was the one to discover her body, I found the unmistakable garment of the handkerchief that he often wore, clutched in her hand.
The worst type of person.
How do you defeat someone who seems to be immune to being shot down?
Ephraim, it's a figure of speech. I assume that he got what's coming to him.
Oh, deliciously so. Around this time, in my lowest state, I became beset by an aspect of Mephisto. I, myself, being a tiefling of his heritage, he took a great interest in me, saw me as an exemplary sort, and he made me an offer. I could expose people, like this burgomaster, who were seen as a pillar of the community at the time, and couldn't possibly hurt a fly, let alone murder an innocent woman. Expose him, watch him drown in the panic of his influence being lost, and finally end him, and cast his soul into hell. Given what I was dealing with at the time, it seemed like quite the tempting offer.
At least we can say that he had it coming to him.
Yeah.
Oh, if it weren't me, it would certainly be someone else. But I'm really glad it was me.
As one should be. And what do you do afterwards?
Well, that, I suppose, was about another 24 years, give or take, a month or two, where I was in his employ, doing much of the same over and over and over again. Finding benefactors here and there, and making my marks, improving my craft. Eventually, a little Weasley man by the name of Weevil had conscripted me for a job that was hard to refuse.
Was it hard to refuse in the way of temptation, or if you didn't do it, it would cause you a bit of grief?
No, Rue, that's a figure of speech. You never get it.
Ephraim, I will freeze you solid in the ice again. Would you like that?
No.
Then please, do not try and pull that on me. You know very well that I am good with figures of speeches in comparison to you.
No fighting, children.
Okay, Grandpa.
Sorry, Dragon Daddy.
As you should be.
Plus, well, Rue, to answer your question, it was platinum. Heaps and heaps of platinum.
Ah, very much a hard to refuse offer.
Indeed.
Even I could be swayed with the right amount, though I suppose now I've got enough precious gems that I don't necessarily need to worry about that. But speaking of, the goblins are trying to get into my stash again. I should really find a different hiding place for that. Speaking of Mephisto, what other creatures of otherworldly and powerful natures do you have ties to? I can see that you have a few, but I don't recognize all of them.
Oh, well, yes. As far as my magic itself, I am connected to the architect Mistra. I am tapped into the very weave itself to be able to create just about anything my mind can imagine. As far as my other talents, I am an avatar of Elation, the god of joy, also known as Zalthazar Zippel, a very robust entrepreneur back where I'm from.
I've heard of the name, though they don't exist in all of the realms, so it is quite possible that they are different creatures in the one that I know them from. Do they happen to have a penchant for candy?
Yes, specifically candy apples. Lots of them. I once saw him basically pull the scent out of an apple, tosses it over his shoulder, and it exploded like a grenade.
Interesting. Very similar to the one I actually have met. You are quite an interesting character, having so many ties directly. Would you mind telling us a bit about your adventures and how you've used some of your powers?
Well, yes. You see, I as someone that is so popular, it's truly a burden. I was conscripted by Weevil to go and retrieve a certain bevy of heroes. Heroes of Verchalia. You may have heard of them. I was sent to aid them in coming back from a particularly problematic realm. Along the way, I had done certain different accoutrements that helped me in my duties, particularly these fine bracers here, the bracers of bardic bodaciousness. The shopkeep insisted on calling them that. I don't really know why, but I suppose they were a fan of alliteration. Regardless, they are quite very useful. They allow me to stretch my consciousness arcanically so that I may focus on more complicated spells simultaneously.
Interesting. I could use something like that. Would make it easier for me to use multiple concentrated spells at once. But I do quite like the name. It is very catchy.
Well, branding is important. And while we are on the subject of apples, there is this little trinket here. This particular apple was given to me by Zalthazar. Upon biting into it, my arcanic means of reality warping are invigorated, and I am able to make something akin to the wish spell. But as far as I can tell from this item, it may be limited in how many times I can do that.
It indeed does look like the magic in it does have a limited use. It is still quite a powerful item. I will say, though I have more power than a normal mortal could hold, I am still jealous. The wish spell is quite a difficult one to pull off. It takes a lot of energy. So the creation of this must have been quite a process.
Indeed. And I, for one, certainly do not lack for stamina.
Good to know. You were talking about the heroes of Rochalia. Did they talk about it when they were here? It sounds very familiar, but I can't quite remember what I know about it. It is always good to write everything I can down. That way things aren't forgotten. Forget.
Forget.
Forget about it.
Yes, well, there were quite a few, all unique individuals. First, there was Alexandria, Evercreed, a paladin of sorts, very pious yet prickly, for lack of a better word, a strong warrior in the patronhood of Bahamut, the Platinum Dragon.
What do you mean by prickly?
Let's just say she was hard to get close to, but there was a warmth beneath it all that belied who she truly was. She cared the hardest, so she was the most afraid of losing those closest to her. So you had to work a bit to get there.
I know a few people like that. They can be some of the best people to know, though also sometimes the hardest to get along with, because my personality type doesn't necessarily work with them all the time. You said Bahamut?
Yes.
Okay. Right, just taking that note. One of my favorite things to read on is, well, don't get big head over this, you two, but I love reading on dragons from other realms. There are some very powerful ones in some of the realms that are, at least compared to these two, very interesting. No offense, you two are interesting. They just have more powers. Well, I can't say that Ashura doesn't have a lot of power, because I never really uses it.
Spoilers.
Glare. Can't make notes of things if you don't share them.
Yes. Secrets don't make friends, but friends do make secrets.
Indeed. As for the others, we went over a paladin.
Yes, there was another one. Bit of a green thumb, that one. A gnome. Well, a bear. Well, a gnome. He was a bear, and then he became a gnome, but he could still go back to being a bear. We just called him Bjorn.
Were they by chance a druid?
Yes, he was a druid. But I will say, one of a unique origins. I believe most druids start as something and become an animal. He was an animal that became a gnome.
Writing that down. Going to have to look into that. I have a few friends who want to be reincarnated if possible. I'm trying to pull some strings, but one of them might have interest in that type of power. Don't know if I'd be able to get it to work, though. the gods of their realm are particularly stubborn.
As they are wont to be.
Yes, I don't think I've met a god who isn't stubborn except for that one. They were particularly nice and pleasant to deal with. Well, never mind that. As for the others?
Yes, there was a couple of sorts. A tiefling by the name of Eventide. Saying that she was fiery was a bit of an understatement. She was known as the Infinite Ember, and was probably one of the most brightest of all of us. Warm, caring, a bit lost in the natural traditional ways of being raised as a tiefling, but I helped her along with that, and, well, she became someone that was far greater than she was. We also happen to have something in common. She also died. You know, now that I think about it, a lot of us died. Oh my god, all of us died.
Oh, sorry to hear it.
Well, we got better.
You died, but you got better.
Indeed.
But what's the one saying? You died, yes, but I lived.
Ah, yes.
And boy, did I live.
Not an easy feat to bring someone back from the dead in trying times. Usually people with a lot of power are required, so you must have been either very favored by your gods or had some very good friends.
Well, a bit of both. Eventide was betrothed with another member of our party by the name of Maria. She was a cleric of the Raven Queen. I suppose having the Mistress of Death in the back pocket of one of your closest friends did aid a lot of us in certain scenarios. She was a bit cold as well, but she had been through several trials in her life. The demeanor was understandable, and I dare say that she was one of the first people that truly let me in and welcomed me within the party itself. After a time, I am a bit acquired taste.
I feel like most bards are an acquired taste. We can take some getting used to, depending on the type we are. I know that I've been kicked out of a few places for being a little too theatrical, as one said.
I thought you said that you don't want to be eaten.
What? Ephraim, I can't even with you. Oh, one way that a specific bar that threw me out while I was attempting to join a party said that I was overly dramatic. Can you believe that? Me?
Yes.
But you're not supposed to. You're supposed to say no and make me feel better.
True friends tell the truth.
I mean, if it's obvious I'm trying to get you to say no, though, you should just humor me.
No.
That would be a lie.
Yes, but
You want us lying to you already.
you have lied to me before. You lied to me specifically about going to that restaurant the other day. Said that you were not going to go without me, and then you ended up going just because I was sick.
I had a reservation.
But you told me you weren't going to go without me.
Alright, next one, I won't go without you. I was scoping the place to make sure I had milkshakes, which sadly I did not.
Unfortunate, but I also don't know if I believe you. But back on the topic.
Oh, yes, sorry, I was quite enjoying this exchange.
We can be quite the interesting bunch. Especially when one of them decides to rile me up, or bring something up. But, I was going to say, it is definitely interesting that you had a party member who was betrothed to the Raven Queen.
Oh, no, common misconception. Betrothed to Eventide, the tiefling.
Oh.
She just was a follower of the Raven Queen.
Okay, I misunderstood.
It happens a lot.
Also, it's probably obvious, but don't piss off the Raven Queen. I'd managed to do that in one of the realms I visited. Not a good idea. Not in the least bit.
Oddly enough, I think that's one of the few gods I actually didn't annoy. But speaking of annoying, there was one person that stuck out of me. A protege of sorts. He had a particular habit of being righteous and believing anyone could be saved, and boy, I can tell you when we first met, that was quite annoying. But he was persistent, and he won out over the end and changed my mind. He went by the name of Galadriel. Galadriel Ambercrest. An Eladrin, I believe that's what they were called, from the Feywild. And I suppose I was trying to teach him the ways of the world, and I suppose he ended up teaching me a bit.
Interesting. That name sounds, for some reason, rather familiar. I'll have to check my notes later. I can't find anything on them right now. But I have to say, I don't know that everyone can be saved, but there is often times that you can save some people from, shall I just say themselves, so to speak.
Yes, true enough. There was actually the final member of our party who was lost for a time before I met him. His name was Barney. Barnabas for short. Oh lord, now he's got me doing it.
The reversal of the...
Yes, it's a bit of a thing with him, but damn it if it isn't contagious. Barnabas was a person of unfortunate ancestry. He was an ascendant of a particular nasty individual by the name of Strahd.
Ah,
I wonder what this Strahd was like.
Well, as far as I knew, a complete asshole.
that seems about in keeping with most of them. Some of them are nice in the different realms, but pretty sure the majority are not that pleasant.
Yes. He unfortunately lost his humanity at a time. Well before I met him, he was a vampire. But he was a friendly sort, really never bit on any of us in particular. He also had this really ornate mask that he wore all the time. He used to talk to himself a lot. Apparently I found out later, I just thought it was a little personality quirk. Apparently I found out later that thing had a mind of its own. Particularly a mind of a serial killer. But Barnabas was helping reform it. Slowly. For the most part, the mask agreed that it would only kill racists for a bit.
Well, that's at least a more acceptable target. Most of them can't be reasoned with. Easily, at least.
Yes, unfortunately he thought a lot of things were racists.
That's an unfortunate part to that. Hopefully it learned in the end.
It learned well enough to not kill anyone. Barnabas was the one that was in control for the most part, but despite his origins and the task ahead of him, Barnabas was by far one of the most loyal friends that I had ever come to know.
What other friends did you come to know?
I suppose we found a couple people on our journeys. There was Brock, a Minotaur, really big penchant for stories, liked him a lot. Bit braggadocious and such. There was Grick, believe he was a lizard man. Don't know how he survived as long as he did, but by God, that one, he was resilient. His partner, not so much. Died instantly the moment I met them.
He died upon seeing you?
Well, he died upon stepping on an ornate snake statue that crushed him.
Ah,
What a unfortunate way to go.
Unfortunately, hilarious.
and here I thought it was just if looks could kill.
Well, Rue has been trying that on me for quite a while. Hasn't worked.
I haven't perfected it yet. I almost had petrification down for a time, then I realized not a good idea. Too many visitors of the food delivery sort got turned into statues. Had to reverse that before I got charged for it.
Just keep trying.
You'll get one day, I believe in you.
Maybe. If I do perfect it, I might start teaching some people how to use it so that they can be more discreet in their way of disposing of the people they need to.
Not the goblins.
But why?
Do I know what they'll use them for?
Fair. The goblins aren't necessarily the most trustworthy with such a power.
But you could just look at people and make them hard. By God, you are a bard.
Yes, I could do that even before I learned the petrification. But that's another story. For another time.
Of course, of course.
That's on a different platform.
What do you mean, different platform?
Nothing.
Sometimes I think you're breaking some sort of fourth wall, and I'm not sure why or how.
All the walls seem intact to me.
Yeah, same. But Vermillion, can you tell us what was one of the most impactful parts of your journey?
Oh, my. There were so many. There was the time I was tripping balls in the woods from a fake candy stall, but that is neither here nor there. Also another time for another platform, I suppose. I think it was the time that my associates were focusing on bringing me back to life. I had no idea they cared so much, but they really gave their all to find me, and I suppose the hardest thing I've ever had to do was say goodbye to my wife a second time, and throw myself back in the throes of danger for the sake of the world.
Well, that definitely sounds like it would have been difficult, but it is also an admirable thing to do. To give up your own happiness.
But I just don't get it. It would have been so easy to just sit back and enjoy my retirement. Hell, the old me absolutely would have. But something, I suppose those heroes had a way of affecting me. I simply couldn't leave them alone.
It is an admirable trait to have, to be willing to put past your own benefits. But I will say, saving the world also does save you some troubles. Because if you have the option to save the world and refuse it, sometimes the gods get mad. I'm not speaking from personal experience, of course. I have totally not got almost stricken down for refusing. It's totally not part of the reason I'm here.
Well, Paylor did kick me out of his realm, so to speak. The prick.
I'm not surprised. From what I know, not necessarily the hardest to upset, and not necessarily the kindest individual to those who have upset them.
I mean, all I did was save his life with my friends, but I'm a tiefling in a holy realm, I need to leave, or something of the sort. I assumed it was just because he didn't want to have to be beholden to someone of my ilk, but I didn't take it too personally.
Arrogant pricks.
Yes, that's how I see most gods. I suppose Zipple is alright, and, well, I can't say I feel that way about all gods. Alexandria technically is one now, so at least there's one or two I like.
I must say, despite my issues with the couple I know, I at least enjoy their presence occasionally. Though one of them considers me an equal at this point, so maybe I should be concerned. And that I'm one of those arrogant pricks. Actually, I'm not going to ask you to, because you'll probably just say that I am.
Well, you're not arrogant if it's true. You're just upfront about it.
That is a good way to look at it. And I have technically ascended past mortality, but I didn't think I was a god. So I'm not sure that I'm their equal. Interesting to think about. But one thing I do know is I have located the area that you're supposed to be in. So, once your energy is fully there and you are ready, we can give you that little nudge in the right direction.
Oh, that would be lovely. And by the way, this has been quite enjoyable. We should do this again sometime. You know, if I happen to accidentally end up here.
I mean, it doesn't have to be accident.
Yes, you can always visit. If you can teleport, I can theoretically make it so that you have a chance to come here every so often.
That would be lovely. I'm kind of interested in seeing these goblins and how ingenious they are.
Yes, one of our goblins is standing right behind you right now, in case you didn't know.
Oh,
Why is she holding a knife?
oh,
No, that's not a knife. That's a big pen that's shaped like a knife. I gave that to her yesterday.
Why did you give them a pen that's shaped like a knife?
Because the other goblins were bullying her, and I wanted to give her something to threaten them, but not be able to harm them as easily. Also, it looks like she wrote something on your leg.
oh.
She gave you a little charm. That's cute. I think she likes you.
Well, thank you.
Well, there she goes. I think she's embarrassed that I pointed her out.
I would actually like to ask, as a bard, you probably had many partners.
Oh, yes.
What would you say is your most surprising?
Well, certainly the most surprising was the time that I managed to seduce the mother of all dragons, Tiamat.
Tiamat. How'd you manage to pull that off?
Well, you see, I have a penchant for singing, and my dulcet tones was able to convince her not to eat me. Well, devour me.
They just devoured you a different way.
Unfortunately, we were enemies in combat at the time, so it wasn't really a fortuitous situation, but we did split on amicable terms, I believe.
Possibility of being friends with Tiamat.
Friends with benefits. The benefit is not dying.
Well, I'm sure there could be other benefits too. The only time I've met a Tiamat from any realm, they were quite lonely.
You'd think someone with multiple heads wouldn't get lonely.
Well, then they're just talking to themselves.
Yes. It's more of a matter of having other creatures around than yourself, because even if you have multiple brains and all of the heads, sometimes it just gets boring, and the things would go in circles.
Yes, no dragon is an island.
Well, I know this is a figure of speech, but I just wanted to let you know there are definitely some dragons which are also islands.
Really?
Yes, I have met one. They were an island in the sky, usually. They had magic that kept them afloat most often. They occasionally would come down when they wanted to rest and possibly eat things that weren't in the sky, but quite an interesting character.
Huh. Well, I guess almost no dragon is an island then.
Yes. But I will say, try not to be flying near it if it's a flying one. They might try and eat you before they talk to you. It's not pleasant.
Duly noted.
So, other than Tiamat probably being your favorite quote unquote fight, what others would be your favorite fight?
Well, there was the time I exploded a dark elf's head by singing.
Oh, what song were you singing?
I was telling him that I was living rent-free in his head. He asked me what rent was, and I just simply replied, 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year?
Copyright claims.
And then he basically heard that at increasing volumes for roughly about 5,000 times in the course of 6 seconds until his head exploded.
Very interesting. I would not have thought to use that song.
Yes, then there was also the time I tried to kick a dragon off of a cliff, and, well, they're quite large creatures.
We are indeed.
Some are small, but as you can tell by Ashura here, some are large. In different ways, but,
Hey, that's kind of rude.
well, Ashura's what? Very tall
Yes, we'll go with that.
Let's go with robust.
and very built, but robust is probably a better way to put it. Though usually I don't mind just calling Ashura fat because he likes to call me annoying when we're not talking to guests.
I'm working on it.
Yes, you've made quite a bit of progress. Though I can't say anything, I'm still what was it that one friend called me? A beanpole of a person?
I'm not even sure if your race can develop muscle, can they?
Yes. But one of the other original Cephalotus Fae is quite well built in the muscle category.
I mean, they are muscle fibers, and you do have plant fibers. I'm not sure how much different they must be.
Yes. I believe it's because we're not 100% plant. Our bodies are a bit of a mix of the same materials as plants and the same materials as something such as a human. But I am, unfortunately, cursed to forever be muscleless. No matter how much I exercise, I get no more definition or strength. Also probably doesn't help I exercise like once every couple thousand years, but still.
You may want to increase the frequency of that.
Well, when you have other people to do most everything for you, it's not as necessary to be strong physically.
We'll go to the gym sometime.
I didn't know there was a gym around. Then again, I also haven't been out much recently. It's been a while.
Speaking of being a while,
But yes, we should probably get you back to your destination.
Yes, absolutely. Next time I come by, I'll bring the Dragonfire whiskey. It's a delicacy where I'm from.
oh,
That does sound delicious.
Indeed.
We'll definitely have to have you again. And until then, have a good awakening.
Until next time.